I guess I shouldn't be too shocked at this point, because the pattern seems set in stone for Dead by April's release strategy. I'm just, I came away from the last video, that being Better Than You. That was the last single that released several months ago for Dead by April. I came away from that video thinking at this point we've had enough tracks released since Memory to constitute about 2/4 or 2/3 of a typical album duration, that maybe upon the next single, an album would be, unveiled, or an announcement, and that would be, subsequently coming in sometime in the future. Nope, we're still going with singles, which maybe these are easier to release. I can think of other groups that have done the same type of pattern. Let's say, for example, Black Veil Brides. They had that EP that came out a while ago, and that was anticipation of a full-length album. So you might have some smaller release windows, although Black Veil Brides did not release singles to the extent that Dead by April has thus far. I'm still a bit shocked, because it just seems like at this point, again, just build an album construction. You've certainly got enough material, but okay, maybe they just want to keep putting stuff out. Maybe there's an album being worked out in the background. I don't know. I think I've heard things. Anywho, it's new Dead by April stuff. Big fan, of course, as somebody who's general metalhead. That's where my devotion really is in the music world. I mean, I'm open to other genres as well, but metal has a special place in my heart, even more than that European metal. I've really been impressed by the talent I found overseas, specifically in that region of the world. But Dead by April really is, I think, a special group. I mean, they're wonderful talents in the metal scene, but electronic metal as well. They're one of my exceptions, because for me, electronic music just doesn't usually bring me in. I mean, there's a couple exceptions. Starset, MNQN, Knives. I mean, those are some American groups, at least I can think of, that skew what my baseline is usually in judging electronic music, that being what usually comes to mind, EDM. It's just not a type of music that I'm into. But there's enough of a metal bass line. I say this in part for those of you who perhaps Dead by April, this is an unfamiliar name to you, and this is a first impression video that you're getting with me for the band. There's enough of a metal bass line, and they play around with their genre sounds. They got more aggressive and frenetic type songs in the metal scene, what's more so typically, I think, imagined to be metal when you give it that attribution, or maybe some more ballad-centric songs that perhaps have more of a metal atmosphere as well. There's enough of a musicality direction with them that if you're not necessarily into electronic, that's what might steer you in. But even then, I would say the electronic side of what Dead by April has done and how well they integrate it into their metal basis, I find fascinating. I actually really like electronic music through them. Again, it's on exception, but Dead by April is one such means for me, I guess, to enjoy electronic music in part. Let's give Me a try. Again, I've been impressed with a lot of the recent stuff that they've released. Of course, being a longtime fan, I'm very familiar from the offerings of this group. Although I will say their new guy as well, I keep forgetting his name, the lead singer / screamer. He's really endearing me to his talents as well. But let's give Me a try, and of course I'm going to cue this up. We can get a first impression, together, as well as, and for those of you familiarized with my music coverage on this channel, how I format my videos, you know this already. I try to provide every convenience that I can in the world to adapt to individual tastes of the audience. So if you prefer to read the lyrics of the pieces we go along for the song, I will have those superimposed in the video for you. All right, here we go. You get a window of the message of the piece through what's on the bottom of the screen. Okay. It's definitely more of an electronic vibe. That's a nice wind-up. They've done a lot of this so far in the singles. Oh, bonus. That's good background blend. It's gorgeous. I love it. Interesting key change, too. I like that introduction. I'm imagining we're going to rewind back to it in a second. The way that line's structured, I like it. And that jump and pitch, too, on the me's. They're from Me. That's good. Yep, rewind it back. It's such an interesting shift. I mean, they've played around with that in the past as well with some of their other songs. Not just on these singles, but in past album releases, too. Even pitch changes within it. Wow, that's interesting. They're jumping around quite a bit. That entrance is real, again, solid. It's a good guttural whisper, too. I like how it's broken up. That's... We don't have that much of a song left, so they're gonna have to jump back into the chorus any minute. Yeah, definitely. Let me change it again. This song is definitely all over the place, but it works for me. This is probably my favorite part of the song. Just this section is so good. Smooth song. And again, if you're not familiarized of Dead by April, I think that's a good testament to what's familiarized from as much as I've listened to. I've pretty much listened to their entire library at this point. That's very typical for them. I mean, in terms of the sound, I don't see much of a shift, again, from the way that they were established, other than this song jumps around all over the place. And in pacing, they've done that in the past. So say, for example, Better Than You kind of jumps to its sound in some parts, in part because of the vibration, at least, of some of the chorus sections don't mimic other, like, verses. So, again, they play around with their sound in a way that feels even varied amongst the tracks, or, you know, to go even further than that with this song, within certain sections where there's already a change. That was fascinating. Like, on that second, was it the chorus? Yeah, I think it's on that second part of the second, or not the chorus, the second verse. They really variate. I mean, I'm shocked by how much this song jumps around, and it feels, again, united. And typically, you know, for me, I guess it works better. I've spoken before as well in the case of Better Than You. I'm not usually one for last key, or last measure changes in key. It depends on the duration and the transition and just how much you come to appreciate the originating verses. But I find that this is a little more palatable because the whole energy of the song is that we're bouncing everywhere. So it feels like it's a constant mixture and a jumble of the expectations. I like it, though. I mean, it's a smooth track. As far as the lyrics are concerned, it's very typical for them as well with the romance theme. I mean, it's a kind of a sad song. I mean, something is broken, etched in my retina like reinforced concrete. I mean, that's very descriptive illustrations. Again, very strong writing. It's very familiar to me, being a Dead by April fan. It has a very consistent bass line, not just in sound and the tone, but in the messages of the piece as well. My favorite section, I think I still have to say, is that "So What Did You Take From Me?" Hearing Pontus's voice jump around as much as it does, it's just so smooth in that section. But it's a great lead-in, I think, for it to jump back into that more frenetic energy from this lead singer. Again, I forget his darn name. I will remember at least at some point. I always... it's not... No, was Christoph the last guy, or is that who we have on now? I forget. Anywho, it's a good piece. I'm still surprised that this is not being put out as a full-length album. Because at this point, let me count the number of singles we've had since. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... I mean, 7 tracks, but still, it's like, that's, you know, let's say a typical length album, 10 to 15 songs. You're encroaching on, like, 4/5 at this point of an album. Is another album on the way? Maybe if all these tracks will be compiled on, just gonna be maybe longer. Let's say like 15, 20 tracks, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that'd be kind of, I guess, a stretch, but I don't know. I like these singles. I'm always game again to listen to more stuff from Dead by April. I'm just surprised that I guess the release strategy, what would be typical and expected, is being exchanged for continual singles. I mean, that's fine. I guess it's like streaming, for example. For those of you familiar with this channel, you know that I cover a sporadic offering of entertainment ventures in other creative expressions as well. Let's say typically cinema, television, including streaming. For those of you familiar with streaming release patterns, they do typically, let's say for a 6-episode show, they would do one episode per week, unless you're like Netflix and you dump everything on at one time, which is fine as well for the binge model. But if you're doing the weekly release, it's sort of reminiscent of that, even though this is much more spread out. I don't know. I mean, it keeps attention, I guess, coming back onto Dead by April. They might need it in part for marketing this track to perhaps newer listeners. I mean, Me is going to be a harder title, I guess, to get out there because it's such a typical word, rather than, let's say, Better Than You, which is a combination, and then it's easier, I guess, to market that out as one phrase. I don't know. Maybe I can help in that part, get some attention to a song that perhaps might get buried under just common vernacular. I don't know. It's a good song, though. I mean, it's very interesting. I like the cover art, too. I think it's probably my favorite so far of what they've released in the way of singles. What are your guys' thoughts of the track? I mean, you might be coming to this video, totally uninformed as to who Dead by April is. This very much might be a first impression for you. I would highly recommend going back and listening to their other work. They've had 4 albums, a couple of other singles in the past as well that have released some EPs. There's plenty of singles, at least for what would accommodate a new album. There's a wide stretch in their library of what is available to you that you can get an appreciation for their talents. And I have to say, I think this track embodies the familiar stylings of what I know from the more frenetic side of Dead by April, and especially with that electronic basis, this is very typical of them. It's a good track, though. Some deviation, I mean, again, those verse change-ups and the way it's structured, I mean, that's... I know there's tracks in the past, I can't think of them by name, but I know there's tracks who jumped around, maybe not to this degree. I mean, this is certainly an acceleration, but... There's a couple songs we've jumped around to in key from time to time. Let me know your thoughts down below, as well as you long-time Dead by April listeners, if you happen to be in that position. What is your overall thought on the track, and where does this rank for you in regard to the singles that have released? I mean, that's pretty good, I think. I'd still say my favorite still... I liked Better Than You. I mean, from a lyrical perspective, I still think Heartbeat Failing is the best. I love that song so much. Let me know what your thoughts are down below overall. Good song, great contribution. It's a pleasure to listen to Dead by April as always, and to showcase more European talent that perhaps is unfamiliar. Some people, I judge by my social circle, that being a very limited pool of people, but nobody knows half the groups I listen to. And I like to showcase talents that perhaps are deserving more attention, but in certain circles might be more unknown, or obscure at least by name. Dead by April is one such talent. I've been very impressed with their work, and Me is a good testament as always to why I love them. Fantastic exception again to where I generally feel of electronic music, in particular because of the metal energy, and it's beautifully showcased here with some original twist of what I'm not familiar with. It's very much a fresh listen in many ways for them, but it still has that through line that feels like Dead by April. It's a really good, engaging piece. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.